Hello, everybody. It's great to be here again. Welcome to another episode of Fail Inspiring Resilience Together at Home. With this format, we've been very lucky during the pandemic this year to get to know better a lot of exceptional people out there with stories that are amazing and worth spreading. And with our mission of Fail, of course, this is exactly consistent with our vision, and we're extremely happy to have people to share their story. And today, we also have an amazing speaker that we're going to introduce later on. But before, I want to bring on stage Tanya and introduce her as well. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
Good. And you?
Everything fine. It's very exciting to be here today.
Yeah, me too. FAIL is an initiative which was started at MIT from students, and we want to have an event all over the world and have professional people who share their setbacks and failures on stage. And like what you said, right now we can't be on stage, so we have live interviews, and we're very happy that Michael, he reached out to us, and we're having him today as a guest.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So actually, the story with Michael is very interesting because so he reached out to us at some point and he said, look, I have this story that I want to share because it's a story that has been very important for me. It's been like an incredibly relevant part of my life. And now I feel it's the right time to start sharing this with the rest of the world. And we read part of this story in the very first email that he wrote us. And we connected directly with those words. We connected directly to that story. And we couldn't just, ignore all those feelings. And we really wanted to have Michael to join us to share his stories with everybody. So let's have a big round of applause and have Michael joining us with us today. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hey, Francesco. Good. Hi, Tanya.
Hi.
It's great to have you here. Welcome so much on the Fail platform.
Yeah, thank you for reading my email and connecting with the story and giving me this opportunity to reach out.
Right, because like sometimes, you send those emails on websites and you don't even get an answer, right? But it was just so compelling to us. Your story was just, I don't know, everybody will know now what your story is about. So I don't want to spoil anything because everything I would say would spoil your story. But they will hear it and they will listen exactly what we felt and maybe even more, and maybe we can discuss about all that. Yes, exactly. So, but like before everything, so Michael, I know you just went through something very epic that maybe you're gonna tell us more even during your story. You went through a ride that was 360 miles, if I recall correctly, and you did it in like slightly about 30 hours. So tell us a little bit more about your passion and how was your weekend?
Yeah, this just happened, I'll say 40 something hours ago. So Saturday morning, I did ride my bicycle from Buffalo, New York to Albany across the Erie Canalway Trail, nonstop, no sleep. I only got off the bike to grab food out of my backpack. There's no team support. It was just me and, my food and water, my bike. And I did it. Yeah, the previous record was 2 days, 22 hours, and 40 minutes. And I came in at the end in 31 hours, 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm feeling it now.
Did you have good music along?
Yeah, I was listening to some podcasts and audiobooks during the day. And then when the night came and it started getting real lonely, I was like, all right, enough of this stuff. I was like, I just need some upbeat music. So I had all kinds of stuff going on all night long. And it's like right now I can feel like if I lick my lips a lot, it's because my skin's peeling off and like
it's still dry.
Right now I'm so chapped. I'm windburned. I have I have a wicked sunburn on my legs because I forgot to protect myself there. And I'm hurting in all kinds of places right now. So, but I'm gonna do my best for you guys, and I'm happy that I was able to accomplish that. And because riding is something that helped save me, and we'll get into that in the story.
Yeah, like this is impressive, and all these details about riding for so long reminds me exactly why I'm not good at that and I'm not doing anything because it's very challenging. But we really admire you and your passion. And so yeah, we're really excited to hear more. Actually, we have a follow-up question to what Tanya just asked you. So Kirsty, the host of most of our in-person events, used to ask to all the speakers what was their power song. So do you also want to share your power song with us and with the audience, something that really boosts your courage, your energy, and makes you do things that you would never do without that song? What is your power song?
Yeah, you put me on the spot. I had no idea this was coming. And for the first 3 seconds, I panicked. I was like, do I have a power song? And I actually do. And it's, I don't know, it's Kevin Rudolph's I Made It. I don't know if you guys remember that song from a few years back. It's just like, anytime I put it on, it's just like the upbeat, like I made it. No matter how far I've gone or what, stuff I've gone through, if I just throw that on, it gets me going.
Wow.
That's a very nice song. Yeah.
You know it, Tanya?
Yeah. But
Oh, wow.
Also like the title of it. Isn't that like really cool? I Made It,
It
also
is
thinking about your
cool.
ride and also your story probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
like, whether it's like just doing good in business or like just having a great family or, doing an epic ride, it's like any little thing I can apply that song into. And it's like, yeah, it's a little like, boastful and stuff, but there's times when you need that, to lift yourself up. So yeah, that's my power song.
Cool.
We are definitely going to use it for some of our podcasts then. And like talking about energy and inspiration, let's go back to your story. So again, your email and talking about your story with us also in some calls that we had offline was extremely powerful for us, and we really believe that can also inspire so many of the people connected with the FAIL initiative and the FAIL platform. So without further ado, I would really want to invite you to share, in 5-10 minutes, whatever you feel appropriate, a little bit of your story with us today.
Yeah, we're gonna go into the 10-minute zone because I like to talk. So hi, I'm Michael Molinski. I'm 37 years old and what you would call your average American neighbor. I believe in living a life that stacks decisions in a way that leverages one onto the next. This gives me a sense of accomplishment and control as life unfolds around me. I'm a U.S. Marine veteran, having served from 2001 to 2005 as a photographer. When my time in service ended, I was honorably discharged and moved back to my hometown in upstate New York. I started to make a life for myself as a freelance photographer. In 2009, I got married. My wife and I, we used our wedding gift nest egg to jumpstart a full-time brick and mortar photo studio. The business was a success from the very, very beginning. Revenue was doubling each year. We were winning local awards. In 2011, we welcomed our beautiful little girl into the world. And as she started to grow, my wife and I, we wanted to move out of the city and into the country where we had a little more space and a quiet area for her to play. Nicole found an amazing property that we would soon call our dream home. Life, as it appeared, was going wonderfully until it wasn't. On September 30th, 2014, I was woken up by my cell phone in the middle of the night. It was my brother, a deputy sheriff, on the other end, and he was telling me my house was on fire. Half asleep, I couldn't really comprehend what was happening. I felt as if I were still in a nightmare. Unfortunately, it was all too real. I showed up at my old house in the city, and the street was blocked off. I could see the red emergency lights flashing off of numerous fire trucks in the distance. Running up to the house, I found my brother was there watching the firefighters spray my neighbor's house, spray my house, spray my neighbor's house, and so on. As I mentioned in the beginning, I try to make life decisions that will continue to make my future just a little bit better. Being self-employed, I didn't have the 401k from an employer or any other retirement system set up in place. I was going to use real estate as my retirement. The city we were in had property values on the rise. We were able to secure a tenant that matched our dream home mortgage payment. This meant we were upgrading our home, not changing our monthly expenses, all the while building equity and solidifying our ability to have an income outside of just our studio. I feel I need to mention the day after the fire, Nicole and I had a doctor's appointment where we had this amazing news. We were expecting our second child. I just went through a roller coaster of emotions, the yin and yang of the universe, all in about a 10-hour window. After the fire, my insurance company sent me a notice that they canceled my policy 3 weeks before that event happened. I had missed a payment for $27 and change. It stung, but in my mind, I already had a backup plan. Since the cause of the fire was actually arson and it started on my neighbor's property, their insurance should be liable for my damages. But it also just so happens my neighbor's a multi-millionaire investor with an army of lawyers and tactics that left me out high and dry. Now I'm on the hook for the new house mortgage payment, the old house mortgage, all the damages from the fire, and still trying to run the studio. This is a major problem. Our amazing little boy is coming regardless of our financial situation. And things progressively got worse. It just became a downward spiral. I couldn't keep up with the financial burdens of rebuilding and running the business. I started to take money away from advertising and marketing and promoting the studio. I was putting it towards rebuilding. I had to borrow from friends and family just to make ends meet, could barely pay the bills. I did everything I could to stay afloat, and it just wasn't working out for me. I was a failure. I'm supposed to be the man, the provider. I screwed it all up because I missed a simple insurance premium and put my family's entire welfare into jeopardy. And who can I talk to? I felt like it was no one. This is my fault and my burden to carry. As I was fighting to take control of my life, I did everything I could to keep a positive outlook. It's the only thing I could do. When I was at my brother's side, we were watching the firemen save my house, I quipped, "Hey, at least those flowers I planted are getting watered." Got to keep a positive attitude. I started to flood my social media with quotes of inspiration, things I knew that would uplift me, even if it was just on the surface. Once in a while, I would share my story with someone I was in conversation with, and they would respond with sympathy and appreciation that I had such a positive outlook on the future. I can't imagine what I would do if that happened to me, or I would be furious, or the typical responses somebody would say after hearing my story. And of course I was mad. I'm mad at myself. I'm mad at my situation. But being mad and self-flagellation isn't going to get me out of this hole I dug. And complaining wouldn't help either. And I didn't want my community to feel sorry for me. I felt stuck. I felt alone. And I was hurting mentally. And I knew I needed an outlet, but I was too scared to face the truth. I was depressed. Anxiety was a constant force in my every waking hour. And if I shared my story with the world, would anybody want to hire me? I photograph weddings for a living, one of the happiest days in a person's life. Who would want to hire someone who's struggling mentally, who can't pay their bills? They're just seem incompetent. I wouldn't, and that's the story I kept telling myself. It got so bad that one day on my way to work, I just thought I should just jerk this steering wheel right into a tree or a guardrail, something. Not going fast enough to kill me, but enough to hurt myself and do some serious damage, maybe even become disabled. That way I could forget about all my obligations and I could just give up. And fortunately, it was only a split-second thought. I pushed it as far as I could into the back of my mind. I was dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, the big four, PTSD. And it didn't come from a combat zone, and it found me anyways. And it had a stranglehold on my mental health. I'd been living under the illusion that I was in control of my life, and slowly I had to shift my perspective, because we cannot expect to know what's going to happen every day. And there was one way I could really escape. The one thing that brought me passion and was fun, it was as simple as getting on my bicycle and going for a ride. So I started to train more, get that endorphin rush from the physical exertion. I also started to feel, a sense of accomplishment as the miles stacked on each week. I started setting my alarm a little early, getting in that workout. There's one small win to start that day, a solid brick for the foundation the entire day, and then the week. And then I had a dream of riding my bicycle up the entire state of New York along Route 9. Now, this road is where I grew up. It's near my studio. It's been on the edge of my studio for the last 5 years. And it just so happens it's the official US route that runs from the George Washington Bridge in New York City all the way to Canada. Now, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it for a cause. And so I chose my own cause, a scholarship. I want to, now if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it for a cause, my own cause, a scholarship. I chose to create a scholarship to help students who are in the arts and also sports. I want to bridge that gap between the brooding artist and the athletic jock. It's how I felt as a combat photographer in the Marines, and now as an endurance athlete and entrepreneur. On my 32nd birthday, I embarked on this 320-mile trek up north, and the goal was to finish the ride in 32 hours. I did it in 35. A small failure in the scope of things, but I still felt like a winner at the end, having only trained for about 4 months to tackle this feat. And after the ride, Nicole and I finished rebuilding our old house. We put it on the market and sold it, and we didn't recoup all of our losses. And now we're stacked with tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. I still can't believe this was happening to me. 3 years had gone by since the fire, and I'm still dealing with the trauma. It just seemed to fester. Now, Nicole had been by my side the entire time. She's there to ground me and remind me that we have a beautiful family. Our kids are happy, they're healthy. As long as we have each other, we don't need to worry about the material possessions. It's the sense of gratitude for the little things and the journey that makes this a wonderful life. Even though my life had taken a turn for the worse in a matter of seconds and minutes, I had to understand that it wasn't going to be a quick fix. It's not going to get over in a week or a month or even a year. My life had been changed forever. And once I owned up to that fact, I could rebuild. I could rebuild with a sense of purpose and with vitality. Because it's not how you act when everything's going right in your life. Your character is written in how you react when it all goes wrong. We're not defined by our failures that happen to us. And we're not alone in those failures. There's a community, a family and friends all around us. Even though we might feel like we're in a lonely place, we're all in this together. I am not alone. And that's why I'm here. And thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Wow, Michael, like really impressive. Like I could seriously really feel how you felt then, and it was really interesting also to hear how you got through this. I would like to ask the first question. You said that you were too afraid to face the truth. Do you sometimes think that human beings prefer to suppress their feelings? And if so, why do you think that is happening?
I feel like it's a part of whatever society we're in. Me being in America in the Northeast, yeah, there's no badge of honor right now in letting out like how you're struggling in your personal things, because in the grand scheme of things, we're all kind of struggling, and for the most part, there's this stigma out there that people don't want to hear it. So like, keep it to yourself. Yeah. I don't want to hear your problems because I got my own problems to worry about. I'm glad it's happening to you, not me. So we're taught to keep it to ourselves and just let it like stay in, and then go to therapy and talk to a therapist and stuff. But like, I don't believe that really is the solution to all this. Because anxiety's gone up all around. No matter what part of the world you're in, we all have there's depression around, there's anxiety around. We all have our struggles, and I think it's really community that if we share that load, share that burden, instead of everybody just trying to worry about themselves, it becomes a lot easier. I think I answered
yeah, of course, that's absolutely answers the question, and also makes us feel well in a way, because that's exactly what we're trying to do with failure, trying to bring together a community where people feel comfortable about sharing those stories. And the fact that you see the need for a community, you see a need for this to happen so that people can share in a safe space. I think that's absolutely, wonderful for us to hear. I want to make a comment around something that I felt during your talk. So I really see you brightening up when you talk about you riding your bike, when you talk about your passions. And I want to use that not just to ask about that particular aspect and the relevance for you about that in your life, but to mention something that in hyper-competitive environments, for instance, at MIT, but everywhere in the world for real, we feel that sometimes when you're overwhelmed by some problems, some challenges, things that you need to fix, you forget to think about yourself, and you forget to think about what can you do besides really focusing on that and trying to come out of that situation. And because you never feel you have enough time to distract yourself, to do something that is good for you. So how would you encourage people to find the time to do what they love, even if when they actually think about it, the first feeling is guilt because they're not really focusing on delivering the best performance, delivering that exam, delivering that paper of their report, or work on that thing? Like, how can you help people understanding the importance of doing what they love and distracting themselves from the focus or the problem they're facing?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said, writing wasn't a selfish distraction, because we all distract ourselves every day. We have these little rectangles in our pockets that we can use to distract ourselves, and it's all about time management. So you have to make a conscious decision whether or not you want to, use that time scrolling through your feed, checking out the latest thing on Instagram, or if you want to do something that takes care of yourself. And for me, it was I wanted to earn my time, watching Netflix, Netflix and chill, or whatever they want to call it. So I would get on my bike and my inside training area, and I'd throw up my laptop, put on the show, and I'd be riding while I was watching TV and stuff. So I'm getting both. I'm relaxing, I'm distracting myself from the outside world, but I'm also taking care of myself. And I know it's like kind of like a contradiction, but it works for me. And it's not about beating yourself up too. If you know, like, you're doing the wrong things, like, oh, this time I'm just gonna sit down and veg out on the couch and catch up on the latest episode or whatever. It's okay to do that once in a while, but don't make that a habit. And if once you get going and you start doing that thing that brings you joy, that new habit overrides the old bad ones. And you're the same 24 hours are in the day, and you realize you're not missing out on anything, and then you can start structuring your time better. You can start blocking up, checking your emails. You don't have to have all those alerts on all the time. And there's like a lot of little things you can do to structure your day. So so you feel better, really.
So where would you recommend people to start? Like, from something small, people would not run, for instance, or ride for 360 miles right away. So ride to distract them, even if that's their passion. So what is a recommendation for somebody that is struggling, taking time for themselves? Like, for instance, starting small, something around that, like really an advice for people.
The easiest thing you can do is set your alarm for 1 hour earlier than you normally wake up. That's it. It's a little bit of a challenge. It's going to be hard at first. Next thing you know, you're up at 5:30 in the morning or whatever it is, and everybody else is asleep. And then you can be, just walking on your treadmill or just going to the gym or going outside and getting fresh air. And, the world's asleep, and you're out there, and you're like, I'm experiencing the world as it is right now, and I have this whole place to myself. For me, it's all about the morning, because at nighttime things keep going on and stuff. But if you can get up an hour earlier than you normally would, it's like your whole day starts off amazing.
Wonderful advice.
I'll set my alarm 1 hour earlier.
I hope so.
Anyways, I have a question. So you were saying about the bike. The bike is your safe place, and you noticed that because of kind of like Netflix and chill. You wanted to earn your Netflix session, right? Was there another like hobby that you tried out before like going on the bike? Maybe you had a hobby and you thought, oh, maybe that's something that I could distract myself with.
Well, when I was in the Marines, we ran a lot. You know, I was a big runner. I was a fast runner. And then I did like a small triathlon in my mid-20s, and I ran a marathon in my mid-20s. I only done one, but then I started getting knee problems, and that's when I turned to the bike. And I hadn't been on a bike since I was, 16 years old, but that was a part of my childhood. I used to ride my bicycle like to school. It was no shifting gears. It was a trick bike. They call it BMX bike. And I lived about 12 miles from school. And then, my senior year, the big thing for me, I challenged myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to ride my bike all the way to school. 12 miles. Like, that's crazy. So I got up an hour and a half early and rode that thing all the way to school. And I would do tricks there. And, and even going back before that, there was a fundraiser when I was little. It's called a bike-a-thon for St. Jude's Hospital for Children. And so you would walk around to your neighbors and you would ask them to pledge, however many cents or $1 per mile that you would ride. Now, this is going to be the first time you guys are hearing this story. I was in 2nd grade, okay? And I have a brother who's 4 years older than me. And so we went out to all our neighbors and we got, 25 cents a mile, this and that. And my one neighbor's like, oh, $5 a mile. He's like, this kid's 7 years old. How far is he going to ride? For me, it was just such a clear goal to do. Like, I didn't know any better. It was just like, okay, we're riding from 9 a.m. to 12, and there's going to be a picnic and hot dogs and burgers and soda at the community park afterwards and stuff. So all you got to do is just ride as many miles as you can. So I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I didn't stop that entire time for 3 hours, and I rode like 22 miles at 7 years old, and I ended up coming in 2nd place for the most amount of miles ridden out of every kid, ages 5 to I think 13 was the oldest there, and the only person to come in 1st place was my brother, and he cheated because he had him and his friend. They shared the same bike, so they would ride like 5 miles, and then the other friend would take the bike and they would ride. So there's a tag that they would hole punch every time you completed the mile. So they just used the same bike and shared it, and I came in 2nd place. So to me, just going back to my childhood, and like it didn't click until like after I'd done my big ride. Like I'd suppressed that memory for whatever reason. It's like a bike calls to me. Like it's part of me for whatever reason. It's how I'm wired, and going back onto the bike, it reminds me of that childhood, that joy and freedom that I had. So for me, it is a safe place to be.
Wow. So I think you just said it's in your DNA. If also your brother is capable of doing this, I guess it's really in your DNA. So like, what can we do about it? You're always going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Michael, something that, I really felt deep here in my chest when you were like talking before was related to when you mentioned how many things together happen in the short window of 10 hours, okay? And like your life completely changed in those 10 hours. Like you felt like the world probably was collapsing around you, and actually, the house was literally collapsing with fire. So, sometimes when people feel like the type of overwhelming situation, like when everything is out of control and you need to regain control, and this is what all your experience is about, and I think what people can relate to and try to learn from you. Like, how did you, if you can elaborate a little bit more, how did you manage to tackle each of the challenges that were happening in those 10 hours to regain control, and how that eventually prevented you to do something as extreme as something you were discussing, like, that tree, something that you probably would regret, or not even probably, like that's something extreme. Like, how do you regain control of your life when so many things happen at the same time?
it has to be unbridled optimism and enthusiasm, even if it sounds naive or trite or whatever. There is no other option. If you let the negativity grab hold, and it has, to me, it got really bad, but you just got to keep the positivity going and not look for the bad things. So like, yeah, the fire had happened, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I got this. I got it all figured out. I'll have this whole thing done. Like I said, the fire happened in the other guy's property. So even after a doctor's appointment, I'm like, oh my God, we're having our second child, our son now. We have a girl, we have a boy. Like the family it's fairy tale, it's the book. It's how it's supposed to be. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna get all my money back. I'm gonna get, recoup my losses. This other guy, the fire started there. It was arson, and it wasn't until like, they say hindsight is 20/20. So like when you're in the moment, you're just taking it one day at a time. You gotta fight just that each day and make sure, your head hits the pillow and you tell yourself, like, I gave it all that I got, all that I had, and gotta wake up and do it again the next day. Because if you don't, life's gonna beat you down if you let it. And it started to like compound itself, and Jerem was born healthy, and the things were getting delayed with rebuilding the house, because it happened on another person's property. I couldn't even start rebuilding until they started patching up their damages as well, because there's a giant hole in their roof, and water was sloshing in onto my property, creating more damage and stuff. So that even went on for a year after the incident, and it just seemed to stretch out forever. And the human body and mind is capable of withstanding a ton of pressure, and so it's just a crazy thing that you go through. And it's not until like afterwards, like I said, I was so ashamed of everything I was feeling and going through. Like I didn't want to share my story with anybody, and now that it's all over with, most of it's all over with, I feel like, now I can share it, even though I could have gotten it out before. But again, I felt ashamed. I felt that burden, and I didn't think there was an outlet. And again, that's the story that's in my head that I'm telling myself. It's not reality, right? There's this narrative in our brain that could be our own worst enemy, and then there's like actual events that are happening in the real world. So had I released it all out earlier, maybe I never even would have had that horrible thought to hurt myself, that self-harm. I mean, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And I'm so glad that it was just a fleeting moment. And, there's a part of me that's like, okay, for whatever reason, this circumstance landed on me. And because there's a force out there that knows that like I can deal with it. Maybe if it had happened to somebody else, they wouldn't have been able to handle it. They would have just ended their life or given up or whatever. But it happened to me. I got to own it, and just continue to make relentless forward progress.
Yeah, and hopefully, like your story and your experience can empower people to react to similar stories when they're processing things, in their own way. But through your experience, even just seeing, that somebody in a similar situation managed to get out of it, I think this is extremely powerful. You're an example for many, and this is why telling your story is so important, because not everybody might have that strength, that endurance, as we read on your shirt, endurance ninja.
Yeah.
Right. You need that. And I think you said something very nice during your talk that I wrote down, like that when you were watching the house, basically burning, you said, at least those new flowers I planted are getting watered. Right. That is kind of the attitude. Like you say, okay, everything is going bad, but there's hope. At least tomorrow I don't need to water the flower, and I'm going to find a way to come out of this situation as well, So thank you for your example.
Yeah, and my brother, he's so down to earth. He just kind of elbowed me in the side. He's like, "You're such an idiot. Like, your house is burning up. Why are you gonna say something like that?" I'm like, it's the only thing I can say. It's like, it's the first thought that came to mind. I was watching the water drip over the rooftop, and we did this nice flower bed all out front, like just a couple of days before. I'm like, "Hey, yeah, we're getting watered. Whatever. You know, that's the positive in it."
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, so you are talking a lot about your family, and I think what is also something that could be interesting is how did your wife actually deal with it? Or like, could you help each other? Did you actually also tell her what kind of thoughts you were having? Maybe not in the moment, but afterwards, like, could she relate to this, or did she feel the same way?
Well, I hid a lot of it from her in the beginning because, again, the society that we're in, you know, I'm the man of the house, I'm supposed to be the breadwinner, and all of these other things that were written into like our culture years ago that may not apply nowadays. It's like, all right, I'm gonna spare her from all this turmoil and stuff that I'm going through because I don't want her to deal with it. I don't want her to go into any kind of depression or stress and all that. You know, because she's a new mom again. You know, our daughter was 4 and our son was brand new baby. So I was not gonna let any of that stuff affect her in raising our child. So I kept all of it from her for years, and it wasn't even until just a couple of years ago, just like I really started letting it all out. Because she noticed a change in me. Like I said, in my story in the beginning, she's been there this whole time, but she also said, like, you know, you're changing. You know, you're not the same guy that, you know, I married and stuff. And it's like, I understand, because this thing had festered. And I explained it to her. It was like a piece of mold had like just set into my brain the time of that fire. And it just was like growing, because, like, you know, mold thrives in darkness. In my entire life felt like darkness at a time. So it was just like taking over my body. And so, yeah, I was, even if I could put on a happy face, and, like, you know, I could talk to you guys, put on a happy face, I could talk to clients, I could go shoot a wedding, like, oh yeah, everything's great and fine. But she saw right through all of that stuff. And it was just like, you have to tell me what's going on. And I finally did. I opened up, and, you know, and it just, our relationship started getting better after that and stuff. And it's just like, you know, it's part of life, and we got to communicate. Communications is key. And yeah, and there's another thing with like medications. Like, I try to live like a really healthy life. I eat as organic as I can. I eat a lot of plant-based food. I just want to eat, you know, as clean as possible. And my thought process was, you know, I can out exercise my demons and my problems. I don't need to go on medication again, because that could be another stigma.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm actually on an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety medication right now, and that was through, you know, talking through my psychiatrist with the VA, and it's what I call microdosing. He was literally telling me, like, he goes, you know, Michael, these are pediatric doses. Like, these are what we give to, like, little kids and stuff. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I don't need much. So I'm prescribed, like, the smallest amount they have, and I break those pills in half, and, like, that's my dose. So for me, it's just enough to take the edge off, and it works. So give it like another year or so, maybe, like, I won't need them at all. But
yeah,
you know, I feel like it's okay to talk about it, because you can't solve everything with health, with food and exercise. You know, maybe there is a need for medication. So I did want to put that out there and let people know that you know, it's okay. You don't have to feel ashamed to be on medication either and stuff. So it's another thing I wanted to hit on.
Tanya, you wanted to say something? Sorry.
No, not really.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I saw a sign. No, but I totally agree, and it's all about the stigma, Michael. And this is something that we're fighting all the time. And also, again, whatever helps you, whatever need you have, you need to go for it. And as you said, like, no shame whatever can help yourself can help others at the same time as well. So just go for it and just don't be afraid. So very, very important to share that. Something I wanted to go back to your talk again is you mentioned that it was hard as a photographer of wedding at the beginning because you need to bring joy in the most important moment of people's life, which is their wedding, and you felt like in your situation you would not bring that, and that could endanger your work and your business, etc. And you already mentioned how you came out of it, and that was great. And my question would be around so a lot of businesses recently with the pandemic also had to go through a lot of adversities, and they struggled a lot. I know myself because, for instance, my parents own a store where they sell clothes for kids, and people just cannot do walk-in, they cannot go to the store. It's very hard to manage, and I know how much small businesses are struggling. So how did you translate the learnings from that experience to overcome the challenges that the pandemic offered you recently for your business?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we're a year into this pandemic now, and in 2020, I lost 80% of my business. Like Nicole and I, we were just coming out of our hardship, and we're like, we got this, things are turning around, it's gonna be amazing again, and maybe we'll go buy another house and start that, retirement thing, start flipping houses or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, I saw it happen. It started happening to me before the state announced their lockdowns and stuff, because I do events and they're way out in advance. So I started losing events in mid February, and I'm just watching these little things start drying up. I'm like, oh my God, this is not happening. Oh, it's happening to me again. No. And then when the state announced it was just like a national thing, I actually had a sigh of relief. It's like, I'm not alone again. Oh, okay. I've been through this. I've weathered this storm. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. I'm not going to let it get me down this time. And because it's happened on such a massive, massive scale, and unfortunately, so many people have lost their lives to this horrible disease and this new virus, aside from the economic strain that's been put on people. But now it is a community thing, right? That's what I've been trying to say all along. So the government had put these systems in place. They opened up unemployment for people like me, for the self-employed. They put together the payroll protection plan to give businesses a little something to keep going. Now, we all know it's not exactly the same of how it was, but you know what? You gotta batten down the hatches and weather the storm. I ate peanut butter and jellies and ramen noodles, and when we were going through the worst of it, I was only eating one meal a day. I'm a small guy, so I was just like, I'll feed my kids and feed my wife, and always to put a positive spin on things. I'm like, hey, you know what the new trend is? Intermittent fasting. I'm like, oh, I got you all to eat, man. I can't even afford food, so yeah, I'm not even gonna eat. I'm gonna fast. How about that? So that's just how it was, and now with all these programs that the government put in place, they're helping us. We were able to talk to the mortgage company and to defer our mortgage payments because of the crisis, because again, this is happening to everybody and not just me. And so I want people out there to know that there's going to be, this is all going to go away. It's not going to be the same as it was before. It never is, but keep your head up, and we're going to make changes. It's just this how life is. You adapt or fall to the wayside. That's just been the rule of life for eternity. So we just gotta, again, keep moving forward, keep the positive attitude, and relentless forward progress.
That's so important.
Sorry, Tanya.
That's what I'm just,
I completely agree, and I think it's important that we remind ourselves that in most cases each of these situations is temporary, right? So you need to keep your head out of the water enough until the rain will stop, and then you're gonna finally be able to breathe more easily. But most of it is temporary. Not everything, unfortunately, is temporary, but most of it is. So there's always hope. Totally agree.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so cool that you could actually also somehow, like what you learned already from your other situation, you could also apply now, and look at the positive things also about the pandemic. I think that's something really important that we all face in different ways, of course. Michael, I have a question. How did you actually get to know about fail? And also, like, thinking about now you talked, now you shared your story with us. Maybe you also thought about what you would like to share. Do you think this also helped you now?
Yeah, I'm, in complete transparency, this is a little selfish for me because this is kind of therapeutic. Me getting out my story and talking about it, it helps me as much as I hope it helps people. Like, that's my main goal, is to be some sort of inspiration for somebody out there who's going through something troubling. And the way I found out about, your podcast and your whole program with Fail is I did a Google search and I was looking for the top podcast in resilience, and you guys were up there. And after, I sent the email, I was like, do I really want to be telling everybody how much of a failure I've been? Like, I don't know if this is a good thing. And then you go back and I was like, all right, I'm in it now. So let's just ride this train.
And then we answered.
Yeah. So yeah, again, we're removing that stigma. Failure, it's going to happen. And that saying is like, people say like, fail fast and do it and get it over with and stuff. And it's like, I fail slow, real slow. This has been a multi-year failure, and it's not always going to be fast and get it over with, but it's a learning experience all the way around.
And especially the process to digest each of these experiences sometimes can be very slow. I mean, and it doesn't really matter fast or slow. What really matters is that you listen to yourself and you understand what is the right time for you to manage and to digest things. So it's never, I don't think it ever had to be dictated by somebody else's expectation, but each of us deal with situations in very different ways. And through stories like yours, but also through our experience, learning from ourselves and listening to ourselves, we can understand what is the right timing and what is the right, how long it takes to digest this. So no rush, absolutely. No need to fail fast if you need to fail slow.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, Michael, something that I wanted to be, as we are heading towards like the hour, I would really love to invite you to share something with the audience. Like, how can people find you? How can people can connect you? Let's say that somebody's getting married, or they want a buddy, or they want somebody to talk to for all the writing things and all the challenging that you're trying to overcome. Like, how can people reach out to you or engage with you or hire you?
I appreciate you giving me the chance for the plug.
Yeah.
My photography is molinskiphotography.com. It's pretty simple. There's only one other Molinski photographer, and it's some guy I think in Australia. And if you want to learn more about the adventures and endurance things I'm doing, this is me, Endurance Ninja. So I didn't even really talk about it, but aside from doing the long distance cycling events, I train in Ninja Warrior. Stuff like that. So I do upper body obstacle courses and other things as well. So, and hey, I hope when these restrictions start to lift and we can have events in person again, that you guys invite me out on stage. And if it's in the Northeast part of the United States, I just might ride my bike to the stage.
Oh wow, that's a great idea. Actually, that's a great idea. It would be the very first sweaty talk at Fail. Wow, that would be fantastic. I guess that's exactly what people would need to see. So we definitely take note of this, and I don't know if Tanya, Michael, you have some final remarks. Otherwise, it's been really amazing for us to talk to you today, to hear your story, and hopefully this is going to inspire other people and help others as much as it helped you sharing with us, because again, the platform is about this. So really, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching this video or for listening to this podcast.
Thanks again for having me, guys, and putting together this platform. It means a lot. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah.
And bye, everybody.